know, it's been over the last decade alone that the world has witnessed a frightening surge in mass murders and serial killings. Many of us have been following it in the news, and it has touched many of our lives. Some of the more notorious serial killers include Ted Bundy, Jeffrey Dahmer, John Wayne Gacy, and Richard Ramirez.
Jeffrey Dahmer became known as the most notorious serial killer of our time, a man who gruesomely killed and cannibalized mostly men for many years. Jeffrey Dahmer lured them to his home, drugged them, and then strangled and dismembered his victims. Police went to his apartment and they were horrified at what they found, a grisly display of victims' body parts.
Gacy had been killing and burying his victims for at least 4 years. 11 of his victims have still not been identified.
Only Bundy knew just how many innocent lives he snuffed out. Only Bundy knew what caused him to be perhaps the worst serial killer in United States history.
Richard Ramirez, the Night Stalker, held the city of Los Angeles in a grip of fear. Ramirez would usually enter his victim's home through a door or window that was left unlocked or open. Frequently, he sexually assaulted his victims before he killed them. A murderer who struck without warning or mercy.
Yet no matter how heinous the crime, some people still remain simply fascinated with serial killers. Some even call them friends. Like Sandra here and her granddaughter, Becky, who's only 10 years old, from Parma Heights, Ohio. They both share a friendship with serial killers. In fact, they write letters. They even receive gifts from these murders. You know, I thought it was so interesting that when we were talking about Richard Ramirez, the fact that he had murdered so many people and had sexually assaulted people, while everybody else was frowning in here, you were the only one sitting on stage smiling.
I believe not. Half of what they say on Richard, on Ted, but it's not just serial killers, and it's not just mass murders now that I write, or that my granddaughter hasn't. We send Christmas cards to every man on death row in a different state every year. We send 200 out.
But my understanding is that you're particularly intrigued and call Richard Ramirez your friend. Why? I mean,
I call them all my friends. Yes, he's my friend, and I'm his friend.
What kind of communications do you have?
Oh, just the normal thing. I mean...
No, it's not a normal thing
Oh,
now.
yes, it is. Have you been to the prison?
Many times, ma'am. I've talked to many murderers as a journalist, many.
Well, maybe that's why it couldn't be anything any farther with you.
Okay, well, why don't you read your letter, and maybe you can help me understand where you're coming from.
This is not to me. This
okay,
is to my
this is to Becky. Here's Becky over here. This is Becky, who is 10 years old. Becky, what you holding over there, honey?
A doll.
A doll. Come and stand up and talk to me. That's your grandma there, who's holding the letter that was written to you by a serial killer. Now, you know a whole lot of folks are going to say, you're 10 years old, you're just as precious as you want to be. You're talking to somebody who's been convicted of killing people and sexually abusing people. I mean, what do you say when people say that to you and talk about your grandma, that she might be leading you in the wrong direction?
I just say they can kiss my butt because I follow the Bible.
The Bible says, thou shalt not kill, and he was convicted of killing.
The Bible also says, thou shalt forgive.
You're very emotional on this. What's making you cry? Can you talk about what's making you cry? Can you tell me about this baby doll? Let's see the doll. Can you tell me about it? How'd you get the doll?
I just wrote him a letter and he sent it.
Richard Ramirez sent you this doll. And when you received it, what did you think about it? Is this something you wanted? What's making you cry? Can you talk about what your heart's feeling, what you're feeling inside right now? Are they happy tears? Or are you sad tears?
Happy.
What's making you so happy? You want to share something that makes you happy, right? What makes you happy?
I'm here with you.
You here with me? Oh, you're so sweet, darling. Thank you. But you know something? I need you to help me understand something. Because it scares me to think that you're getting letters from a man who has killed people. And I'm happy to be with you here too. And we care about our children, especially sweethearts like you, and I just want to make sure that you're okay. So a lot of people may not believe that you're okay writing a serial killer, so you're going to have to help us understand why you're doing it, okay? Anything you want to say to people who don't understand what you're doing?
I just file the Bible and say, like, if it says, thou shalt not kill, just forgive them.
Why don't you read some of that letter that you have that was written to Becky from Richard Ramirez?
He wrote, "Dear Becky, hi, sweetheart. I got your letter today. Always good to hear from you. You know how to read and write very well, huh? I like the smell of freshly cut grass also. Well, I'm doing okay except for my toe. Ouch." It says, "You know my toe hurts bad. Well, I do wish I could keep you and your grandmother company tonight, but they say I've been a bad boy, but it's not true. Ha. Say bow wow to Diva for me, okay? I'm glad to hear you had fun at the lake. He drew a little thing with a duck on it. It says, did you see any ducks? You and I will meet someday soon. Don't worry, there's plenty of time. Tell me about school and who your favorite teacher is. Have you made any new friends? I miss talking to you on the phone. Maybe someday you can live nearby so that we can visit. If there's anything I can get for you, just let me know. Oh, I'm sure there's nothing you need. But as always, your friend. Love you, Richard."
When you read that about seeing you soon, being with you, there was a rumble of discomfort in the audience. Lady right here wants to say something. Darna, sit right here
Sorry,
real
it's
quick.
going to be with
Let's
me.
stand up. Wait a minute. Let me grab a microphone here because I know there are lots of people. Wait a minute. Hold on. Don't say a thing because
He's going to come with 13 death sentences.
Wait a minute. What do you say? What do you say?
Aren't you terrified that he may actually come and see her?
With 13 death sentences hanging over his head?
You got a point there, but still, you know, people do escape and, you know, things get, I mean, people
He wouldn't
come
even
out
hurt
of
a fly
jail
when he got out.
sometimes.
You know, son, you know what is?
Sure about that. If I were you, this is
Who else has something to say here?
No.
Stand, please.
I think her grandmother should be teaching her how to knit sweaters instead of writing letters to serial killers.
Part of the concern is that most people who are serial killers do have a charming way about them. That's the way they get you in and find trust. That's where people are coming from, I think. What do you say to a man here who says that you need to be teaching your daughter your granddaughter, a lot more wholesome things than writing serial killers?
My aunt just died a couple of years ago, and she did teach me how to knit. And I got tired of it because it was boring, and I wanted to read books and stuff. But I like to write, so she makes me stuff. She makes, like, when I grab a piece of paper and pencil, before I was 4 or 5 years old, she helped me write letters.
I know what she writes, and I know what comes back to her. And as far as you, sir, saying knitting is a very wholesome thing, you have your belief, I have mine. Orphans' homes, anything to do with children, cancer, leukemia, AIDS, you name it, it is fine. But these are the forgotten. And God tells me we must go to the prisons and preach His name. And if someone does not believe in God Almighty or writes bad, I will not write back to them.
Well, one thing about it, they are not forgotten. I mean, a lot of people say, wait a minute, a lot of people say we can't forget people like that who run around killing, mass murdering folks like this.
But they are forgotten in a term of that they are human.
Well, not by the victims' families. They're not. We're going to talk to some of the victims' families of Jeffrey Dahmer, for instance.
We had people murdered in our family.
I'm sorry, ma'am. I'm really sorry. And maybe let's talk about that when we come back, because having experienced a murder in your family, it seems that you would be even less inclined. I mean, Becky's mother, let's make this point. Becky's mom says she's very upset over her daughter's obsession. She has some problems with her own mother teaching this to her daughter. We're going to talk to her next. And also, a little later, we're going to talk to American Journal anchor Nancy Glass, who spoke face-to-face with serial killer Jeffrey Dahmer in an exclusive interview. She's going to give us some insights about what she saw face-to-face. And you're going to meet even more people today claiming, I'm friends with a serial killer.
What did you want from the men you picked up?
I wanted to keep them with me. And as my obsession grew, I was saving body parts such as skulls and skeletons.
For some serial killers, it is the very act of killing another human being that is sexual. It feels very strange to wake up and be in that cage, in that cell. I don't think man was meant to be locked up in such a way. My cousin, he used to say, there's no thrill like a good kill.
It's hard for many of us to believe, but the guests on my show today are saying that they are friends of serial killers like Ramirez you just saw there. That was the voice you heard, 27-year-old Richard Ramirez, also known, as many of you may recall, as the Night Stalker. He terrorized Los Angeles residents during the summer nights of 1985. He randomly killed men and women by slashing their throats, mutilating their bodies, even in some cases sexually assaulting them. Before we went to break, we met Sandra and her 10-year-old daughter, Becky, who say that they're good friends of Richard Ramirez. They not only write letters back and forth, the child gets letters too. Becky's holding a little baby doll that Richard Ramirez sent her with hopes of one day they will be together. Quite an interesting exchange went on with people who don't understand. And one of the people who does not understand is Sandra, Becky's mother.
Excuse me.
I'm sorry, Becky's mom here. Oh, I'm sorry about that, I got confused. But your mother and your daughter have this obsession with Ramirez.
Yeah.
And that is hitting you in what kind of way?
It scares me.
Your eyes are filled with tears right now, and I'm just wondering what you're thinking.
I don't like to see her hurt.
Excuse me. You say with Ramirez.
Any of them.
How many do we write?
A lot.
You write Ramirez too?
Oh, no.
No, she don't write Ramirez. She writes somebody else.
I wrote a guy in prison to ask him questions. My ex-brother-in-law used to be, and I wanted to find out more, you know, about, he wasn't on death or anything. She scares me because she can't separate. She doesn't, she says she can, and I don't see it. What I see is I'm going to end up with problems. Right now, people say, stop it, you know, but I can't. I monitor it because if I stop it, it's going to go on behind my back.
What is your worst fear about this?
That she's going to fall head over heels for one of these people. And it you know, it's not going to stop there. I'm just, you know, my mother says, well, they could come to my house and that, you know, and
that scared me too.
Well,
that would scare me too.
Because I try to tell her they've done. You don't know them either. You've written to them. You don't know them.
Let me tell you, as a journalist, having interviewed just about everybody and an awful lot of murders, they're some of the most charming people I've ever interviewed. And after you talk with them, you just say, I can't believe that this is that person. But that's part of what got them there, isn't it?
Right.
So when you have these talks with your daughter, what do you say to her? And I thought it was really interesting also before you came out in the commercial break. Becky was crying. And I went over again, and you came over. And what Becky was crying about was she said that she doesn't have any friends. Because I asked her, what do your friends say when you go to school? Do they know you're the kid who writes the serial killer? She said, I don't have any friends. Becky, why don't you have friends?
They just don't like me.
Is it because of the writing letters, you think? Why?
No, they just, it's hard. I really don't know.
Weight. A lot of it has to do with weight.
Well, yeah.
A lot of kids have problems with it. So maybe the isolation that she feels in her own life and the isolation that Richard Ramirez feels in his life, come on folks, they have a lot in common. Is that?
But the poor self-esteem, this is something that really bothers me. It's going to suck her in.
She has this too.
Yeah, but I don't.
It breaks my heart.
But I don't. But I don't. You know, I look at these people and I know a difference with things. The things they have done is horrible. But Becky can't see what she sees is the good side. Yeah, they send her things. They made her a clock, or they'll send her a baby doll.
It's right over there in my mother's lap. I've got my mother sitting right there.
This is 4 generations of one family. My goodness. Hi, great-grandma. How are you? Now, great-grandma, I'm going to ask you an honest question.
Now he's going to look funny.
I'm going to ask her an honest question here. A whole lot of folks would look at the youngins like this in their family and say, y'all are crazy.
I like him.
Do you say that to them? Do you think what they're doing is right?
He made a remark a while ago. I got to tell her. She feels the same way he does.
Wait, hold on. I want to hear great-grandma.
Oh, she prays every night. That little girl.
Prays every night? Mm-hmm. So what lesson do you think is good for her to learn in doing this and taking what some people say is a real big chance?
I think songs from the Bible, it's right.
So you're teaching your great-granddaughter about forgiveness? Is that what it is? And love? Or is that what it is? Even with a serial killer? Even with a serial killer. What are you holding here? What is this?
What's a clock?
It's a clock. And what's the significance of the clock? What does the clock
It's not
mean?
going to bite you.
Somebody get one more.
It won't bite.
Where's it from?
She gave it to me.
Tell me about this clock.
That came from death row.
From death row.
You're holding it upside down.
I'm holding it upside down. I've never held a death row clock before. I've got to tell you.
Well, please, let's get it right.
Whoa.
Handmade.
Handmade.
I got a kitty cat one just like it, except it's like laying sideways.
You were talking about you wanted to get a pet for somebody. What were you talking about?
Me?
Uh-huh.
I was going to get a pet for my mom because she don't like pets.
Because she doesn't like what?
Pet.
Animals.
Oh.
So you were going to get her an animal. Oh, gosh. What has this done to a mother-daughter relationship?
It hasn't done nothing.
It hasn't improved it, but it hasn't damaged it. I mean, I try to understand. I try to sway.
What do you say?
I say she needs help. She's only 10 years old. I feel bad for you that you don't have any friends, but writing to the psycho people, what do they do for you? Come on now.
It's not psycho. It's what I do.
You need a role model in your life. At 10 years old, you need somebody to teach you how to do something different.
She is my role model.
Your mother's not a role model because she can't even get the grandmother to teach you. Grandmother's supposed to teach their granddaughter how to do nice things, not, to teach them how to write to
She's teaching me how to preach the Bible.
Sorry.
Preach what?
I do
What
think
Bible?
that this is nice, and they are my friends, and they are her friends, and you know what? They're better friends than people like you would be. Thank you.
You need
Sit
help,
down and have a
miss.
seat.
You need help. You need help. Badly.
I think we got, oh boy, look at her hands and what I did. Wait a minute, I really want to know what folks here are thinking, because I think we hit a nerve right up in here. And I'm going to bring somebody else back after the commercial. We're going to meet an 18-year-old who has photos and news clippings of serial killer Jeffrey Dahmer all over her bedroom wall. She's going to tell us why this obsession, and we're going to get some good questions, I'm sure, right after this break. We'll be right back.
Enjoying this episode of Rolonda? If so, please hit the subscribe button and let me know. Leave your comments and also follow me in other forms of social media at Rolonda Watts. Remember, that's ROLONDA, Rolonda Watts on all forms of social media. And if you're interested in voice acting, my goodness, let me help you. This is a new year coming. It could be a new you, a new career. Check out my voice acting masterclass at Rolonda.com, ROLONDA.com, and I'll tell you all about it. Let's get back to the show.
One of America's most notorious killers lost his life. Wisconsin prison officials say Dahmer was attacked and died from head injuries on the way to the hospital. A bloody broom handle was also found at the scene, a gruesome end that Dahmer could never have anticipated.
People who are friends with serial killers, that's who we're talking to today. You just saw a news piece on Jeffrey Dahmer, who was convicted of 17 murders. Many of you may recall he would get his victims drunk and drugged and then would photograph, strangle, dismember his mostly male victims. He was even known to have eaten some of them, and I think that's what caught our attention in the most gruesome way. Dahmer was later murdered in prison, and we're going to talk about Dahmer's friends in just a minute and have some exclusive interviews with him from Nancy Glass of American Journal. But before we left on this break, I tell you, the ire got going in here when there was a confrontation between a young lady and Grandma here who said, you know, that serial killer's a lot better friend to you than somebody like her. You got some reactions, like from this man.
Hi, well, first off, Becky, your name is? I feel sorry for you, okay? Second off, Mom, where's the father figure here?
He's there.
Where's the father figure? I mean, come on. Where's family values?
Don't even talk about family values.
What happened to family values?
Because I have the best
They
two parents
got
that
no
a kid
family
could ever
values.
have.
And third off, Grandma.
Don't even talk about
Let me
family
introduce
values.
this 18-year-old lady. Robin is from Secaucus, New Jersey. Let me tell you about Robin, who's jumping in here.
And Grandma, you need a first place ticket to Bellevue up the street over there. You would never subject my kids to that.
Well,
Let me tell you something. I don't care what you say to me.
I don't want to go to Bellevue because I don't feel like going home with you tonight.
Lady, I go home at night, all right? And I know everybody in my house is taken care of. None of my kids are writing letters to murderers.
So,
all right? My kids
your
are going
opinion,
to school, A+ student. They're doing the right thing.
Oh,
They're going to
really?
do something positive. What's this kid going to do when she's 15, 16 years old?
You know what? Still doing what I want to do.
Excuse me. I am graduated from high school, okay? I am currently enrolled.
Wait a minute, wait. Let me interject. Wait, y'all don't know Robin. You don't know Robin. So Robin might have something to say. Wait a minute, excuse me, let me introduce Robin. Robin is 18 years old. She's from Secaucus, New Jersey. When she heard the news that Jeffrey Dahmer had been murdered in prison, the child burst into tears. She would carry a photo of the serial killer for 2 years following his death. She says it's out of love. In fact, Robin called herself a widow. Go on, Robin. What were you saying? What were you saying? No. What were you saying? And I think you can...
I just want to say something. I graduated high school this year. I am currently enrolled in the University of Arizona, which is a very hard school to get into, okay? So it has nothing to do with, oh, where's your morals or whatever you're talking about. That is such a lie, okay? I'm not going to go out and be a murderer when I'm older. All right? It's just a fascination. And it's a love for somebody, okay?
Why
you don't
love?
judge people.
Why love? Why has fascination turned to love? Help me understand how you could possibly love somebody who just ate up people. Really?
All right. I love him because, see, he's a person. I don't like to judge people, okay? Yeah, he did murder 17 people, and I'm not saying that is right. No, why don't you just give me a goddamn chance to talk,
No disrespect here, darling. You cannot...
Look, they're disrespecting
Robin,
me.
No. Nobody cusses on the Rolonda show. That's our rule, and if you watch the show, you know that. I think that you can be just as angry as you want to be, and you can be adamant, but it's the way that we approach our issues here. Now, go on and explain yourself in the heated passion that you do, but let's watch our respect
Well, all right,
for each other,
I first saw him, and I thought, you know, I liked him, whatever. And I became fascinated in serial killers, not because I want to be a murderer, just because I'm intrigued by them and by what they're doing and why they do it and what drives them to do it. You know, and then it just came from that. That's why I have all those newspapers
Well,
and everything.
folks out here aren't the only ones who are having problems with this. Rachel, Robin's sister, is extremely concerned over her sister's obsession. Rachel, talk a bit about what you got in your lap there and why are you so concerned today?
This is a shirt Robin used to wear when, well, she still does wear it.
K is for killer.
Yeah, and Jeffrey Dahmer's picture on it.
And I understand she has pictures like some people have 90210 and Baywatch and all that over teenagers. You have Jeffrey Dahmer news clippings all over your bedroom wall. When you walk into your sister's room, what hits you?
It upsets me. She's my sister. I have to be there for her. Like, you see the audience, nobody's really understanding her. You know, they see what's on the outside of her.
Well, you know more about what's on the inside of her. Why do you think your sister has picked up this particular obsession and adamant about it?
I'm not really sure. She's always been into it. Like she said herself, she wants to know why they do it. What do they think about when they do it? You know.
I understand you also were very fascinated with another figure in history.
Yeah.
Hitler?
Yeah.
Robin's mom, Terry, could not be with us today, but she invited us to her home just to show us some of Robin's collection. Take a look at this in Robin's room.
As you can see, this is Robin's room. This is all her memorabilia of Jeffrey Dahmer, magazines, books. This is a picture that Robin wore on her jeans on this chain for 2 years of Jeffrey Dahmer, and it did cause a lot of static. with a lot of people. Am I concerned about it? Yes, because if it was something that she wanted to do, as she's saying that she wants to study and be a criminal psychologist, that's a positive part of it. By saying she loves him or crying and being upset when he was killed, that part of it, I think I want her to let go of.
When we come back, we are going to talk with someone who knows firsthand what it's like to talk to a serial killer, in particular, Dahmer. She talked to him one-on-one. Nancy Glass was the first to get an exclusive interview with Jeffrey Dahmer. And when we come back, we're going to talk to the American Journal host about what Jeffrey Dahmer, I'd love to know, Nancy, what in the world was that like, right after this.
Why did you photograph them?
It was my way of remembering their appearance, their physical beauty. I also wanted to keep something. If I couldn't keep them there with me whole, at least I felt that I could keep their skeletons.
And if you're interested in being a voice actor, why don't you sign up for my free webinars and find out all about it? Just go to Rolonda.com, ROLONDA.com, and push the button to sign up for my free webinar. So come on, let's get you prepared for maybe a brand new career in this brand new year. Check it out, Rolonda.com. Now, let's get back to the show.
American Journal anchor Nancy Glass was the very first to get an exclusive interview with Jeffrey Dahmer. Nancy, I remember that interview. And I remember being glued to the tube, and we're friends.
Yeah.
So my heart was like, Nancy, please be okay. Just be okay. And you were there. What was your impression? Tell me what you were going through doing that interview.
Well, you know, it's not at all scary because he's in prison for the rest of his life. You made a very good point when you talked about charm. It is precisely the charm of a serial killer that allows him to maintain his lifestyle. But that mask, the mask of charm, is the most deadly disguise. What is terrifying about someone like him is that he could write letters. He could carry on correspondences. That is how he lured in his victims. And I also think this woman said that we only know half. I knew everything there was to know about Jeffrey Dahmer. I only reported half because the fact is the other half was far too grotesque for anyone to know. And you dishonor the memory of the people who were so brutally victimized when you glorify someone who committed such brutal crimes.
An Emmy award-winning journalist, you are also a mother of two children.
Yeah.
Two very beautiful children. And when you hear the struggles that this mother and daughter are going through, what do you say as a mother?
You know, it's interesting. That's such a good question because watching, I wanted to say to you, I'm sure that you are a lovely little girl with so much inside to share, and I'm sure that there are wonderful friends out there your own age, and you should maybe widen your circle. Go meet other kids. There's lots of great kids with a lot inside. If there aren't kids in your school, go meet the kids in your church. Go join a hobby group. The best way to grow and learn is together, not with someone who is confined.
Hey, Becky. That's right. Let's do this, Nancy. Becky, how about this? Nancy and I are your friends. And if you want to write a friend, have a pen pal, why don't you write us? Why don't you do that? Okay? Hello? Why don't you do that? Could you write us instead, maybe? If it's correspondence and a friend you need, sweetie, we're here for you. You don't have to do that with the jail, in the jail. What are you feeling right now when we say that and we appeal to you that way? Happy. Good. I almost feel as if there's that, you know, we have to be real careful, folks, about our children, especially those who feel isolated because they feel different. Maybe this is the type of thing they can fall into if we're not careful. I want us to take a look now at Nancy Glass's exclusive interview. Jeffrey Dahmer, one-on-one. And Becky, I want you to listen to this, and maybe you'll learn a bit more about a serial killer. Jeffrey Dahmer, chilling interview from Nancy Glass.
You went out to pick up the man. Was there any kind of ritual you went through?
I'd have the sleeping pill mixture already prepared. The person would drink it, fall asleep, and that's when they would be strangled.
Why did you photograph them?
It was my way of remembering their appearance, their physical beauty. I also wanted to keep something. If I couldn't keep them there with me whole, at least I felt that I could keep their skeletons.
What did you want from the men you picked up?
I wanted to keep them with me. And as my obsession grew, I was saving body parts such as skulls and skeletons.
When you killed these men, afterwards, were you repulsed? Were you upset?
No, at the time, it was almost addictive. It was almost a surge of energy.
Do you still feel that compulsion, that obsession?
I wish I could say that it just left completely, but no, there are times when I still do have the old compulsions.
When we come back, we're going to talk more with you, Nancy, about that interview. Unbelievable. We're also going to speak with a criminologist who takes the glamour out of killing and exposes the gruesome realities behind some of the world's most notorious serial killers right after this. Robin says she loves Jeffrey Dahmer. So when you were watching Nancy do this exclusive interview with Jeffrey Dahmer, saying some of those chilling things, what were you thinking? Because while the rest of us are going, ugh, you're thinking what?
No, see, people think that, like, I love him and I don't think anything was wrong with what he did. I know that killing 17 people is wrong. I'm not going to disagree with that. I'm not saying he had a right to kill 17 people. I'm not crazy or sick what you people are saying, because that's not right. That's not right that you're judging me and you don't even know me.
Do you go on?
Can I just tell you the point of the interview, because I want to differentiate. It was not based on any kind of obsession. It was based on the fact that it was not his monstrous crimes which fascinated me, but what fascinated me was, how does a boy who was born into what looks like an enviable life, his father was a PhD, his parents belonged to a country club, how does this child, who seems to be born into everything, become the worst kind of monster imaginable? It was the anatomy of a murderer which fascinated me. What went wrong in his mind? What was the answer?
Really, really just a chilling thing. Are there something that well, I know that there were things that you said that you couldn't tell in that interview. Is there something you can reveal now that we've...
No, but there were things. For example, while he said he was sorry, you could tell that he said the right words, but you could tell that none of it touched him. And in fact, he revealed to me that he had really distanced himself from his entire life because he couldn't face the daylight. He slept all day and he stayed up all night because he couldn't face himself, and he prayed for death, but he feared it because he didn't know what would happen to him after he died.
Whoa, very interesting. You talk about the anatomy of a murderer. Well, our next guest deals with just that. He's a criminologist. His name is Jack Levin. He's a professor of sociology and criminology at Northeastern University. He's also the author of a book entitled Overkill, Mass Murder and Serial Killing Exposed. He says he's very concerned that serial killer fans are not only, or you say you think they're making celebrities out of these monsters.
Oh, unquestionably. Now there are trading cards, there's a serial murder calendar, there's a Jeffrey Dahmer comic book, there are t-shirts with Charles Manson's photo and Dahmer's photo. You know, it's one thing to do an interview, as Nancy has done, and to enlighten us, because we all want to know. We're all really fascinated with serial killers, but we want to understand them, and that's wonderful. It's not just paying attention to them, it's making them into big shot celebrities, superstars, doing a docudrama in which John Wayne Gacy is played by Brian Dennehy, or Mark Harmon plays Ted Bundy. And by the way, talking about Ted Bundy, His name was Theodore. It wasn't Ted. That was his nickname.
So we've endeared even him?
He's our good friend, our pal, Ted. Why do we call him by his nickname?
So what is your biggest fear, that if we keep this up, what might happen? Might these kids become serial killers?
Well, I think that Robin has found a constructive way of dealing with this and could turn out to use it to her advantage in school and criminal justice. That's great. And certainly Becky is a sweetheart, and I'm not at all concerned about that. But look, it says something about our society. You know, who are our heroes? What does it take to make the cover of People magazine? Jeffrey Dahmer made it 3 times, the best-selling issue ever. He was voted one of the most intriguing people of 1991. They sandwiched him between Elizabeth Taylor and Angelica Houston. That's what we think about him. He's in Hollywood. He's a fictional character. You know, instead of being an obscure, illiterate nobody, a monster, because that's why you have to tell people, as you've done today, about the gory details. You have to know about Ramirez repeatedly stabbing people in the middle of the night, innocent people who never knew him at all. You have to tell people about John Wayne Gacy torturing his victims and then burying the bodies in the crawl space under his house, having parties of sex and torture, and finally death while his wife was away. You have to tell people about Ted Bundy. Everybody says he was brilliant. If he was so brilliant, how come he's not alive today? He defended himself in court, that's why. He flunked out of 3 law schools. He was a necrophile. He held a 12-year-old little girl's head under the mud in order to suffocate her. He was disgusting. He was terrible, and we've got to talk about this. We've got to talk about the things we want to hide from, the eviscerations, the disembowelments, the decapitations, the cannibalism, so people do not glorify these monsters.
And as people are glorifying these monsters, as we've taken Theodore Bundy and call him Ted, and as a young lady has Jeffrey Dahmer posters all over her bedroom, what are the families of these victims thinking? We're going to hear from the sister of one of Jeffrey Dahmer's victims right after this.
Hey, are you enjoying this episode of Rolonda? If so, please hit the subscribe button and let me know. Leave your comments and also follow me in other forms of social media at Rolonda Watts. Remember, that's ROLONDA, Rolonda Watts on all forms of social media. Now, let's get back to the show.
This is Mary, who I just met in the audience, and Mary's a teacher, and you were having some interesting observations about all of this.
I just seem to notice that among the guests here, each one there seems to be a theme of aloneness or loneliness. I don't know what the proper word is. And then from the little excerpts that I've seen of the different serial killers, they seem to be lonely or alone. Now, I don't know the history of these killers.
Well, mostly I think they isolated themselves because they were psychopathic criminals.
What I think, yes. But I think maybe the connection between the guest panel and these killers is these people are feeling in some way alone or lonely.
Robin, is that the case with you?
Lady, no, Robin, it just seemed to me.
I'm engaged. I have a boyfriend who I love.
No,
I'm
and you
engaged.
can still be lonely.
Yes.
And no, I have.
I really want this to be clear to you. I am not questioning you at all. It seems to me that it's really important to you that we, the whole audience, realize you're a valuable person, because it seems you have told us, you've said, my name is Robin, I've graduated high school, I'm going to a college in Arizona that's difficult to get into, and this fascination and love I have for this person is not insane, but it's because I want to attribute it to a career that I'm going to have. So it seems to me that you're a great person, but it seems that maybe you want us all to know that. Maybe you feel people don't respect you. That's what I'm trying to say.
What do you think about what she just said?
That's
I saw some people who agreed with you. I saw some people who agreed with you. You look brilliant, the lady said.
Yeah, I mean, look, Jeffrey Dahmer did feel profoundly rejected, but most of the serial killers do it for the power, the control, the dominance. They want that respect. They feel a sense of powerlessness, and it explains why so many people seem to be fascinated, because after all, there are a lot of Americans nowadays who feel that things have gotten out of control. They don't have power and control over their own destiny. And okay, these people did the wrong thing, but they did take charge of their lives, didn't they? They were powerful figures, and I think that appeals to many Americans.
But it goes much, much deeper than loneliness, and
That's
certainly
right.
Jack knows more about this than I do. There's so much more to it. There is a psychopathology that is really, it's terrible, and it's what drives them. Loneliness is a component, but it's
You
often...
mean the serial killers?
Yes,
Yeah.
the serial killers, it is something so deep-seated. It is something they're almost born with. So,
well, when you talk about loneliness, there is no loneliness like losing your brother, especially to a serial killer. Janie can tell us about that. She lost her brother Richard to Jeffrey Dahmer.
Yes, I did.
When
And,
you
have these doctors here telling you what they think, but you know what I'm going to tell you, what I know is this man was just pure evil. He was a monster, and that's that, and he's an evil man.
Janie, what do you say to young girls like this who are glamorizing, glorifying, pumping up the man who took your brother's life?
Being curious and all that is one thing, but, when you're going to start writing letters to somebody like that, that ain't right, because you're sending out the wrong message. You're breeding serial killers. People like that, like what you're doing, writing letters. Oh, I want to call him. Maybe I should hear from him. Oh, I want his autograph or something like that. That's not sending out the right message to the public, because the public is we're in trouble.
What happened
we're
to
all,
your brother?
We're all in trouble.
Explain to everybody what happened to your brother.
What happened to my brother? Well, that's a kind of a question that that I've been asking myself for the past 8 years. See, my brother had been missing for 3 years before the story even hit. And he wasn't found in the apartments that they found all the bodies and the whole bit. But according to the police, Jeffrey Dahmer admitted that he had murdered my brother by a picture that they had showed him. And then all of a sudden they said, okay, well, Jeffrey Dahmer was more or less just pointing out all these victims, saying, okay, I killed him here and I killed him over there. And I'm like, why should I believe that? Why should I believe a psychopath? I said, you people better have enough evidence, to come and tell us that, my brother was a victim. And according to him, he said, yeah, that he had murdered him, and he drugged him, strangled him, and dismembered him, and dumped him like he was nothing.
And that has done what to you and your family?
It's destroyed my whole family and me. I'm seeking therapy right now. I mean, I was just back there just now trying to deal with coming out here with people like this. I mean, I'm in danger right now. I swear to God I am.
If you're at home and you're watching, and your loved one is also obsessed with a serial killer, when we come back, we're going to find out what you can do that might help turn them around. Right after this. Richmond has a different kind of take on all that we've been talking about today. She's a behavioral therapist, and she's been working with families for more than 10 years, and you're listening to a lot of family drama here as we talk about serial killer obsession.
Well, it certainly brings up a lot of emotion for all of us. And one of the things I just have to quickly say is, Rolonda, you know, and Nancy knows, that talk shows have come under a lot of attack for over-sensationalizing things. And Jack brought up the point, we don't want to glamorize these people. We don't want to make them more celebrities. But one of the things talk shows can do is to let people talk, let people share, let other people understand. And that's why, even though it's a very natural thing to want to judge people and get your opinion out there, and I appreciate everyone having an opinion, I think we have to hold back our judgment and try to listen so that we can be more effective in the repairs.
So how can we listen to things? Let's say there's somebody in my family who's going to start being obsessed. How can I listen and still care and still want them to stop and snap out of it?
Well, if there's someone in your family, then you have to seek help and you have to understand with some experts, because as we've also seen today, the charm factor can fool anyone, and these people know what to say to get their way no matter what. So that's the extreme case. I'm not worried about Robin. I think what she's done is she's writing letters and she's talking about forgiveness. I think if that's her cause, how beautiful that she lives in America and she can do that. I am a little worried about Becky, and I'm worried about Mom too, Luan, because you're right in the middle of this family, and you probably love your mom and you love your daughter and you want to do the right thing, and if you know if you cut it off, she's going to want to do it more than ever. I'm going to strongly encourage you to encourage her to get other hobbies, interests, clubs, and encourage her to make other friends. Invite them over, do whatever you can to encourage her to be a little girl and have those friendships. It's hard enough to be 10 years old. It's hard enough to be in a society that judges people by their weight, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It's a tough time. I would like to see her encouraged away. I appreciate the lesson about forgiveness, Robin. That's beautiful, but I think it can be taught in less scary, less dramatic ways.
I think one of the things that we had mentioned also in one of the commercial breaks is just sometimes what our children feeling isolated can lead to, and that's a good example here. And I got to take a quick break. Some final thoughts when we come back. Some final thoughts now from Cynthia on family issues as we finish up the show.
Well, Rolonda, as someone else I think pointed out as well, all of these people we're talking about today started off as babies. And some of them started off in good families. And so I think that we have to be aware of one factor that's probably more important than anything, and that is isolation. If you see your child keeping to themselves, not making friends, you have to get in there, you have to talk, you have to encourage them. Making friends is probably the most important thing for a balanced, socialized child in our society. And it doesn't just stop at the family. Every single, the Unabomber, every single one of these murderers, most criminals, one of the things they have in common is this sense of feeling not understood, not liked, isolated, all those things. So if you see somebody that you could reach out to, you know, just one person, just one UPS guy who comes by and says, "Good morning, Mrs. So-and-so," can make somebody look forward to that the next day. It's a huge problem in society. So reach out. Try to help the people that you see making these behaviors. Reach out, write a letter to somebody. It's fine to write a letter to somebody if you choose to do that. There's a few questions. Yeah.
Some questions. Wait a minute. I don't have a microphone. Microphone. This was the wrap-up session for the therapist. Y'all, who's yelling back there? Well, come over here, girlfriend, and tell me what it is you want to say. And here too. While you're coming, go on, stand up.
I would just like to say that I'm one of Robin's best friends, and she's well loved and she's well respected around town. Everywhere she's well respected, and I just think people are getting obsession confused with like her fascination. She's more fascinated, not obsessed, and that's driving her to a more positive goal, like her career to become a criminal psychologist. I mean, she's just trying to understand. Some people cannot deal with it, but she could deal with what he did. She could understand, and she's just trying to figure out
the beauty of what Cynthia said, and thank you very much, is that's why we have talk shows.
Right.
So that we can talk things out and get better understanding. Sorry we don't have time for everybody. Nancy, I want to thank you. I want to thank everybody here. And we'll see you next time on Rolonda. Sorry